Alright, well, the car we're looking at today, it's a 68 Corvette. A lot would say the Stingray. This is actually the only year between 63 and 82 that didn't use the Stingray moniker officially on the car. 63 to 67, 2 words, Stingray. 69 to 82, 1 word, Stingray. And then, of course, 14 and onward, at least to 19 to my knowledge. We'll call it a Stingray anyway. Influenced by the Mako Shark, obviously. First year of the C3. This car is a clean driver quality car. Um, you know, it's something that you could take to a cruising or a car show. Have a lot of fun with. Definitely turn some heads. Without breaking the bank. It's not a big block car. It's a small block car, but it's a manual transmission. It's a 4-speed Muncie. I believe it to be the M20, which is the wide ratio, not the close ratio like a lot of big blocks had. Those had a real long first gear. This is actually a bigger stretch between third and fourth gear, whereas the close ratio would have had a big stretch between first and second. So same final drive ratio, 1-to-1, obviously. 336 rear gear in this car. From everything I've gathered in this car, I'm not the best decoder, but it's pretty much a base model. The base transmission was a 3-speed. This had a 4-speed, but this would have been a 300 horse 327 car. Now, get to it in a minute. It does not have the original engine. Suitable replacement. Hard to say what happened to the original. Being a car as old as it is, it might have, let go years ago. Maybe someone robbed it for another project in the 80s when these weren't quite as sought after. Being a metal bumper car, obviously the 68 to 72, arguably, the most desirable C3. So, 1 year only, 7-inch rally wheels. The 69 and up had an 8-inch rally. These are the correct 7-inchers for the 68 only. A couple other 68 only items. Door handles on the 69 and later. This would open the door. 68, probably didn't quite have it figured out yet. Really wanted to get this car out. So you've got this actuation here. A little different. Real fun car. Like I said, clean driver quality. The upholstery, it's really nice. It's a vinyl with a cloth inlay, I should say. Lap belts, of course. I'm probably going to get some rubber floor mats for this car. Factory style rubber floor mats. Got the nice big plastic steering wheel. Has a wood look, but it's actually a plastic material. Really got the late 60s muscle car vibe. Of course, you got full instrumentation. You've got the 7,000 RPM tach. The 160 speedo. Geared appropriately. I'm sure some of these cars could do that, This one, probably not. Probably new with these gears. It might have been 135, 140 mile an hour car, which in 68, that's all the beans. But, like I said, being a 4-speed car, to me, the small block, non-numbers matching, doesn't really hurt it. Got an 8-track player from probably installed many years ago. Still functions. Never tried the 8-track. I just use the AM/FM. It's not the greatest. I'd probably go with a custom auto sound replacement if I was going to. The car has been repainted. There is imperfections. There's scratches. There's some light blistering below the bell line. You really can't even capture it on camera. It's really insignificant. You can see some small imperfections here. There is some kind of orange peel in this area. You can kind of see it there. And you've got kind of a faded spot here with a little bit of blistering. I don't know if that's sun exposure. Again, pretty minor, cruising car, ice cream shop car. You can see the lower sill plate here. Little bit of scratches on there. Nothing that couldn't be touched up real easy on a weekend by a DIY guy. Probably going to need some weather stripping at some point. Again, a lot of these cars, these are some of the items that don't always get addressed, and this one is going to need that. It's also going to need some of the weather stripping. Right in here you can see a little bit of degrading there, and that definitely needs to be addressed at some point. if I were going to keep a long haul, or anybody in the future, probably something they'd want to look into. Let's see, the back stripe. I dig the stripe. It's not a factory Chevy thing. Not that I could find. Got the 68 plate on there. I think that looks cool. Michigan colors for 68 were great. But yeah, not a factory stripe. But I think overall, I don't know, if it's the bill, I'd hate to use the term bumblebee stripe. That's more of a Mopar thing, but yeah, it gives it kind of a cool look, especially when you're dealing with, like I said, a hobby weekend car, small block 4-speed car. Got the little protector here for when you're getting gas. So let's go ahead and I'm going to pause it for 1 second. I'm going to pop this hood and we'll take a look at the engine and I'll give you the rundown on that. Okay, so coming back to the engine bay, pretty straightforward. I'd like to get the metal distributor color cover. It's the chrome colored thing that just kind of, I think it isolates a little bit of the interference you might see. I haven't noticed it, but I think that was the original intention. So this engine, I've looked at the codes, the block code, the head code, the intake code, everything, to see kind of what we're working with here. So the block number, chassis number is 3858180, and to the best of my research, that's a 65 to 1967 327. So leaves a lot to interpretation. So I looked at the intake. Now the intake looks like it was off of a 350 or a 327, 250 horse, 275 horse model. Now the head casting number brings these back to what they call a power pack head. So these heads, to my understanding, date back quite a long time. They were used for many years. They were used in the Corvette, but not in 68. They were used in 63 and 64 in the base model 327 250 horse cars. So these are a smaller intake valve. They're made for a little bit more low end and building port velocity quickly, getting the car going off the line, making a lot of use, making good torque out of a small displacement engine. Not a high RPM head. This car it's 5,000 RPM car. It's pretty much done by then. It's not a high RPM screamer. This engine could be made to be one if you wanted to do, a Vortec head, something modern. This thing would breathe a whole nother way. So my best deduction is this engine was more than likely, between these heads and this, was probably a 250 or 275 horsepower 327 from a passenger car, 65 to 67. Could have been, an Impala, could have been anything. That's the best I can get with the information I have. Of course, like I said, I can get specific chassis numbers to anybody. I don't have them all on hand, but I've recorded them as I took this thing and kind of inspected it. So factory style manifolds, alternator here, all pretty much standard stuff under here. Nothing really modified to any kind of a modern spec. Still a Rochester carburetor. The car does have a new fuel pump. It also has new upper control arm bushings here. Those were kind of in a state of disrepair. Had those done. Just again, it's got to be tight. And the car drives nice. I mean, it drives really straight, really tight. You're going over, railroad tracks, whatever. Not a lot of clickety clack, anything like that. Really tight, really comfortable. But with the engine, like I said, that being a base engine car, I don't really think this hurts the value too much. It's kind of a clean slate. Something you could modify if you'd like to get a little more power. Like I said, it's probably a high 14-second car as it sits. But being a non-numbers matching car, being a 327 small journal, you can make this thing spin. It's your blank canvas. If you want to do a top end on this, you could really make it a screamer without even touching the bottom end. Plenty of power, runs real strong. For a cruiser, myself, I just leave it, but the potential is there to make a lot of power if you wanted to. Things that don't work on the car real quick, trying to keep it under 10 minutes here. The wipers, when you turn it on, this is supposed to flip up and allow you to wipe. Inoperable. The headlights, they'll come up with the headlights. When you turn it on, they don't want to go back down. If you disconnect the vacuum line, you can bring them back down. But for whatever reason, maybe a check valve, those aren't wanting to come back down. Not a big issue. You can still use the headlights. You can manually put them down. That can be fixed. All in all, it's a real nice car, and I'll follow this up with a second video that's going to kind of show a startup and a run of this car. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Thanks.